Hello, everybody, and welcome to our LinkedIn Live today. I have a special guest with me today. We have Yasmin, who is here to talk to us all about attracting those high ticket clients that sometimes people struggle with. Yasmin, straight away, first of all, thank you so much for doing this. I know there were some Wi Fi issues. So we had a bit of fun moving rooms and stuff like that, but that's the reality, isn't it?
Absolutely, yes. Thanks for having me on, Sam. It's a great pleasure to be here.
Well, thank you for joining me. I know that you add great value and you actually helped me create my 6 week program. So, for everybody, that is true. She helped me create my 6 week program. Yasmin, tell me a little bit about yourself, first of all, how you ended up doing what you're doing now.
So I've been in business now for 13 years, over 13 years now. And before that, I was in corporate for 12 years. And I was in training and leadership development, and I was vice president for a multinational. And I was made redundant at the end of 2011 and started my business when my eldest was only a year old. He's just turned 15, so that's kind of a little bit scary. But I started my business really not having a clue about what business was like. You know, when you worked in big business and you think, oh, I know what this is all about. I really didn't. And proceeding, a few years of confusion and, getting clients, but it's very haphazard and, you're just trying to figure it out.
Mm.
And around about 2014, when my daughter was a few months old, I started working with a coach. And really at that point where I was kind of at that moment where I was like, this has got to work, right? This has really got to work. And if I don't make this work, or what am I going to do? What are my alternatives? So I started working with this coach, and she was, after talking to her about what I do, she was like, God, you're really good at getting stuff done in tiny pockets of time, which is where tiny time, big results came from. And it was interesting because as the journey has progressed, I realized that a lot of what I was doing initially was around time management and productivity, but they're just symptoms of your business.
Mm-hmm.
Because I could give you a shorter to-do list, but if your business ultimately isn't built on strong foundations, and isn't built for your tiny time, then it's not going to work. It's going to be an uphill struggle. Now, I've always had 3 to 4 hours a day for my business. I've got 3 children. They're 15, 12, and 9. And so for me, I've never had a lot of time. And so really it became about, how can I have a profitable 20-hour week business if I don't have a lot of time? And that's really what kind of has brought me down this journey. I mean, early on, I started charging premium packages. It was a decision that I made. I don't think it was a conscious decision. I just thought, I'm going to charge premium. And really and truly, that has been the thing that has helped me the most in my business. After having my daughter and then my second son, that has been the thing that has allowed me to continue working in my business, do work that really fulfills me, and actually be there for my children as well. So I can do the school runs and the homework and all that kind of thing. And then I wrote my book back in 2018, which was, again, really all about helping you to see the methodology and how to structure your business so you can enjoy those profits, and still thrive as well without having to work those long hours.
Okay. And I know that for a lot of business owners, a lot of coaches in particular, they might be really brilliant at what they do, but they might not necessarily know how to package it, for example, and also how to attract the right clients, because
Yeah.
there can be a lot of tire kickers out there. There can be a lot of people that might get us on calls, but they've no intention of actually working with us. So tell me about you know attracting the ideal client. Like, where would you start? Where would you start with you mentioned the foundations? You build a
Mm.
strong foundation. So do you want to walk us through a little bit about how things changed for you and how it worked for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that I really discovered early on was that I was rubbish at marketing and I was rubbish at sales, right? I was just like, this is not me. I can't do this. When you're working for somebody else, it's really easy. Well, I wouldn't say it's really easy, but it's easier because
Hmm.
it's not about you. And when it is about you and what you offer, it feels very personal. And so it was a really interesting journey where I kind of went, okay, I'm going to have to get good at this marketing thing. I'm going to have to get good at selling and not feel resistance or hesitation or reluctance about sharing the value that I can offer. So say for example, if a client comes to me and they're like, I'm really struggling, Talk me through your process. So for me, the first piece of the process, or the first part of the process, is really around your messaging, right? How do you talk about what you do? Because if
Mm.
you're talking about what you do in a way that does not differentiate you, that does not make you stand out, I always think of it as, in the old cop shows where they'd have like a lineup of the, 10 people, and one of them would be the bad guy, right?
Yeah.
Use this analogy for your own business, and you think, okay, I'm in a lineup of, 9 other people who do similar work to me. Why would they pick me out? Why would
Mhm.
they choose me?
Yeah.
And if you can't differentiate that, if you can't articulate that, then chances are that they're just going to go to somebody else. It could be a race to the bottom in terms of pricing, because they go, oh, well, he's cheaper, so I'll go with him.
Mm.
And what we really want to do is get very clear on your message. So, what is it that makes you the right person? And this really stems down to 2 questions that I always ask my clients.
Okay.
Right? What's the problem you solve, and who do you solve it for?
Okay.
What's the problem you solve, and who do you solve it for? So, this allows you to get super clear on that problem you solve. I always feel like if I went back to 2012 me, if someone sat me down and said, Yasmin, what's the problem you're solving? And I use that as my guide, I think I would have made progress a lot quicker. It's funny because my 9-year-old loves to invent things. And he always comes up with these random, bizarre ideas. And I always say to him, I'm like, what's the problem you're solving here?
Mm.
And oftentimes there is no problem. He's just coming up with some random bizarre ideas because he's 9, right? But I said, if you want to be a really great inventor, you have to get really clear on the problem and
Mhm.
then solve that. And then, because he'd be thinking about like, oh, it's a robot that does everything for you. Because in his head, he has to do loads of work around the house. And, he's like a robot that will do all the housework. And I was like, yeah, okay, it's called mom. Um, but for me, as a business owner, you've got to get really clear. And I think that this is where, what I found really difficult was understanding exactly where my value was. And
Mm.
one of the things that I know now very clearly is I know how to talk about what you do, or like what my clients do, in a way that elevates how they're perceived, elevates their positioning, and allows them to charge more, because most people are too timid, too
Or
meek.
humble, maybe. I'm
Yeah.
a little bit like we had a chat about this, by the way, for anyone watching. And hello to Orla, big shout out to Orla, book publisher. She helped me with my book. Um, Excellent, she is. For me, I said something like I had got somebody, let's say, 3,000 euros worth of business just by doing an introduction. Like, is that value? Is that something that I should be talking about more? That kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do. I mean, we've had this conversation, and I would say to you, Sam, I was like, you can't see the value of what you do
Mm.
because it's right there. It's like on the top of your tip of your nose, and you can't see it. And I
Yes.
think that that's part of the value that I bring to my clients, is that they'll start talking, and I'll instantly see the gold nugget,
Right.
right?
Okay.
And I'll go, oh, talk to me about that. And they'll be like, oh, well, that's nothing. That's just something I do. And
It's like, I know. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. And I'd be like, oh my God. I said, this is the thing. This
Right.
is what you should be focusing on. And then, because they'll be so meek, and they'll be so timid, and they'll be like, oh, I can't possibly talk about that. And I'll be like, this is what we need to do. And
Mm.
then, so if you said like, okay, well, I gave an introduction and that led to 3K of business, it's like, now how do we talk about that in a way that makes somebody go, wow? Because if you had 3 of those introductions and you were like saying how I got, nearly 10K worth of business through 3 emails, suddenly
It sounds much more impressive, doesn't it?
there's intrigue there, there's curiosity there, there's like, oh, I wonder how she did that. 10K with 3 emails? Who wouldn't want that? It's being able to talk about what you do in a way that just makes someone kind of go, I got to get me some of that.
But I see a lot of people using AI, for example, and saying, I actually saw one guy saying, I've had 1 million impressions, da, da, da. And I looked at his social media and I couldn't see 1 million impressions. I could see maybe something few thousand and then maybe 100,000 on one thing. And I was like, he must have added every single tiny little impression up to make the million. Like if I did that, oh my God, it's like I'd have like probably 5 million, whatever. But I'm just saying, like, I do see people wording it. Like, I'm afraid, would it not look AI-ish if I do that? But I suppose trust is a huge thing, isn't it then?
So I think this comes to the heart of the way that I do business and the way that I approach my business is everything you talk about, everything you do is based in very strong trust,
Yeah.
alignment,
Hmm.
morality, principles, integrity. I think that's the word that I'm really looking for here. Is that nothing that I'm saying is a lie, right?
Yes. Okay.
And I think that's the important thing. Like I've been around in the online space for a very long time. And I've seen people kind of saying, oh, I just had this 50K month. And I'll say in the early days and still even to this day, you'd be like, oh, I wonder what she did. And actually, what I've discovered is that a lot of these people lie, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's blatant lying.
Mm.
And that's also partly why people are hesitant to
Yeah.
invest
Mm.
because they've been burned before, which I completely understand.
Yes. I've had
You
people
know,
come to me that were burned before, but by
yeah.
that time the money is gone. It's like,
Yeah, you're kind of like, I wish you'd come to me first.
come to me in the first place.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I would come in, I suppose, with my skill set is that I can help people build that trust and build the
Yeah,
and connections and useful introductions. It's always nicer to get an introduction from someone
yeah,
who actually already the people trust already, isn't it?
yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah, yeah. So you do the messaging, what it is that makes them stand out, and the problem that they solve. That would be an important one. So what problem, okay, I'm going to turn this around to you. What problem do you solve, Yasmin, for people who might be watching?
So, what I do with my clients is I help them to charge premium rates for their work, right? So they can work fewer hours. So, the problems typically are that they are under charging.
Yeah.
They don't have a lot of time. So, like, we just had a conversation recently with somebody who was saying, well, I'm working all the hours at the moment, and, that's not the way that I want to run my business. So, for my clients, they want to charge more and they want to work fewer hours. However, they don't know how to do that. They don't have the confidence to do that. They don't know how to position themselves in a
Mm.
certain way because, have you ever noticed that when you go to an event or something and you do lots of great events and things, Sam, that somebody walks in and they have an air about them? They
Yeah.
just have this aura,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And you're just like kind of going, why do I feel so magnetized to that person, right?
Yes.
Or why do I feel compelled to look at them? Because they just have this incredible magnetism, right? And one of the things that I really focus on with my clients is not only am I looking at the strategy, but I'm also looking at what's going on for them in their subconscious and in the somatics. So the somatics is just the body. It's
Mm.
like, how are they holding themselves?
Mm.
Because I could say to you, Sam, right, do you know what? I think you should be charging, I'll say 10K, right? Throw and get a number out and we'll go, Sam, you should be charging 10K for the incredible value you provide, right? And immediately, as soon as I say that, you go, oh my God, no, 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 thank you, right? Because ultimately, to your body, that is not safe, right?
Right.
And
Okay.
when your body does not feel safety, and your brain doesn't feel that safety, then it is going to push you away from that. So it might manifest in maybe there's a great opportunity that you get offered, like to go and stand in front of like 10,000 people. And you're like, no, 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 that's not for me. Thanks. So if you don't feel safe in your body, if your brain is geared to keeping you safe, which it is, yeah,
Mm.
then every new thing that you try is it's not going to work because you haven't created that safety, right?
Yeah.
So what I found was I was working with clients and we were doing the strategy, and then like said to them, well, how come you haven't like actually pitched it? How come you haven't actually booked? And they're like, I don't know, something's stopping me. And that's when I realized that I had to go deeper. So a couple of years ago, I became a qualified hypnotherapist to enable me to work with clients at a deeper level So it's not just the strategy, it is also about the subconscious. Like, what are the beliefs that you hold about charging premium? Do
Mm.
you think it's greedy? Do you think that, you're now being exclusionary? Like, not everyone can afford high ticket. Now, my definition of high ticket is anything above 1K, right?
Yeah.
Somebody else's high ticket might be 50K. For me, my number is 1K, right?
Mm.
And the truth is, there's a percentage of your audience that absolutely want your premium offer,
Mm.
right? And think about all the other types of businesses out there. Forget about your industry, but if you think about, if you go to the TV shop, right? You've got your cheap TV, you've got your middle of the road TV, and then you've got your like super deluxe TV. Subscriptions, you've got your bronze, your gold, your silver, and your gold. So this happens all the time. I remember when I launched my book, I had put an offer in, it was like 99p to buy the book on launch day, right? But what I also did was I created a bundle, a VIP bundle, where
Mhm.
I gave them a signed copy of the book
Yeah.
and 3 masterclasses,
Mm.
right? For €99.
Mhm.
I sold that VIP package, right? I'd have to sell a lot of 99p books to be
Yeah.
able to make the equivalent, right? And like, I may not have made a ton of sales, but I made sales.
Yes. Yes.
And so for me, I always think that if you don't have a premium version of what you do in your business, then I
Mhm.
do feel like it's money left on the table, because
Yeah.
there will always be people looking for that higher end experience.
Actually, it's interesting. You just gave me an idea there. You see, this is why I love doing these LinkedIn lives, folks, because I'm just after getting an idea there. I was going to do a LinkedIn masterclass, and what I could do is offer another ticket, which could include a one-to-one with me. So I
Exactly.
can have two offers, and they might just buy the ticket for the class, but they might want the one-to-one with me as well. That's interesting, isn't it? Yeah. So, and I see that Patricia and Orla are here as well. They're watching. Thank you so
Hi
much
guys.
for joining us. But we wanted to, yeah. So I mean, like, really, obviously, I can tell from this that you know your stuff, and you're actually getting us all to think. So confident. Do you think confidence is one of the biggest blocks, or do you think it's family beliefs from childhood or something?
Um, Well, I'm not too fond of like too much navel gazing, right? Because that stops you from actually moving forward. Like, oh, I've got all these blocks and things. And then that becomes part of your identity,
Yes.
right? And so that's something that I'm quite conscious of. Like, I'm a big believer in money loves speed. So let's get things to market as quickly as possible,
I
right?
agree. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And so I think that absolutely there can be certain things. Like, I know for myself, one of the biggest blocks that I've had to really work with and just realize that is actually hindering me was I have this kind of feeling of like, it's not good enough, right?
Mm,
What I'm doing is not good enough. Like, it's not enough for people.
we're the same.
Yeah. And no matter how many people tell you, oh
Yeah,
my God, that's amazing. Like, I
yeah.
was just talking to a client of mine, and she was like, from the work that we've done, she's reduced her working time by 7 times for this particular offer and increased her revenue by 4 times.
Wow. Yeah.
And in my head, I was kind of, oh, a bit like what we were saying about being too humble. I was like, well, we only like made a few little changes. And I was like, no. And this is where I have to really step into it and go, okay, Yasmin, you're really good at this. You have to claim it. You have to own it. And
Own
then
it.
you have to embody it.
Mm.
Like, actually be a walking embodiment. The person at that event who is so magnetic and has this aura, they own it, they embody it, and that's the key. So, I think confidence is such an important part of it, because if you say, like, I'm going to charge 10K for this package, and your knees are wobbling and shaking and you're like, oh my God, are they going to say yes or no, then that's going to happen. However, you also kind of sitting there going, I am absolutely capable of doing this.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I signed an 8K client, I was just like, I can't believe somebody's paid me that.
Mm.
And my husband was like, who's the EJ that signed up? And I was like, charming. And then even the kids, it's so funny because the kids, I'll be like, I'm always doing my coaching with them and stuff like that. And one of them said to me, people pay you for this? And I went, yeah. And they went, you're really good. Do I have to pay you?
Ah,
And I was like, no, you get me for free. But it's when you've done this over and over again,
mm,
and it's one of the kind of like habits that I encourage people to do is to keep like a little evidence log, like a little diary. Like
okay.
at the end of the day, write down the pieces of evidence that stack on top of each other to say, like you got a great email from somebody today. We did a live and we got this comment or whatever it might be, that your client has just given you this testimonial, like stack all of those pieces of evidence and you'll see then, actually, do you know what? I'm kind of a big deal. A bit like, Ron Burgundy from the Anchorman, Anchorman, where he's like, saying, I'm kind of a big deal. And it's not about being bragging or it's not about being arrogant or anything like that. It's actually about just stepping into your expertise and owning it and saying, you know what? I'm really good at this. And I deserve to charge for this
Mm,
and receive it. Because I think that's the block that a lot of people struggle with is receiving the money.
interesting.
Because there's like a little kind of like, oh, but I didn't do much.
Oh my God. It's so people are just commenting. Richard has just said lots of wisdom in the room. Orla said for service industry, I find trying to get the balance right on value and over servicing. That's a really good point, actually.
Yeah, that's a really important one. And it's interesting because over delivery is it comes from a wound where, internally you don't feel good enough. So you
Mm,
feel like you want to stack more and more and more into a package. A few years ago, I was running a program and I honestly, I cringe when I think back now because I was offering 3 calls every week to my group and I was like, why? Because I remember one of the times we did this call and I said, so will I see you tomorrow? And they were like, well, I don't really need anything right now, because we've just had this call. And when you think and so if you're a chronic over deliverer, chronic over giver, that's coming from a place of where you don't feel like what you do is enough. And so you feel like you need to overcompensate. And so for me, I run a program now called the Premium Client Accelerator, and we have a call every the first and the third week of the month, and then they have access to me through a community group. But that's it, So I really had to learn myself about the fact that actually I don't need to over deliver because what I'm delivering is already such high value.
Well, actually, I'm just putting contact. I'm just putting. By the way, if anyone wants to do live streams like this, I can. I do a series of live streams like this for people as a service as well, because not everybody knows how to do it. But I'm just putting your retreat. When is your retreat that's coming up? Tell me about that. Tell me the date so I can just put it in the comments here.
Yeah, it's the 10th and 11th of October. So it's this week on Friday and Saturday here in Carrick-on-Shannon in County Leitrim. And it's called Embody and Earn. So it's very much about stepping into your genius and then earning from it. Because that for me is, if you put people in front of me, like if you kind of imagine that you just sit down and then people come at you and they tell you what their expertise is. I can tell you how you can make money from your business, and I can tell you how to make really good money from your business, how to package it, how to, position it, and how to sell it. And that's what we're doing. It's really taking what you do and then talking about how you build that business based on your brilliance. Because I think people have this idea about business and they have this idea about what it is. And it's actually quite interesting because when I was younger, like I come from a Muslim household, my parents are Indian, and there was always this idea that you went from your father's home to your husband's home, right?
Mm, mm.
And me and my sister were like super super independent, and we were like, no, I'm going to make my own money, I'm going to do my own thing, right? And so for me, if you know how to create value and make money without, so I mean, I worked in a job, I was in corporate for 12 years. But for me, this is like the most powerful skill you can have. This is the skill that I'm teaching my children. Like if you can create value. So I had my daughter, she created a journal that she was selling on Amazon. My son was selling orange juice. No, we live in a cul-de-sac. We have no we have no football, but he still managed to make 20 quid from the neighbors. I don't know who paid it. But so if you have the ability to take something, that a skill that you have, and
Mhm.
you know how to package it and market it and sell it,
Yeah.
then you are so far ahead of the curve. Like, because most people don't know how to do that. And I think, and that's a huge part of my mission. It's like, I want to show you that if you can sell something for 50 quid, imagine if you had a skill that you knew how to make amazing lasagna, and there was somebody who needed help, and you were like, okay, it's going to be 50 quid and I'll show you how to shop for it, what pans you need, and how to make the lasagna. Like that 50 quid, if you did it once, you can do it over and over again. And that's the power of it, that you have to have that faith and belief in what you offer, and that it is of value. And one thing I will say, Sam, as well, about premium clients is, the question is, like, what's the problem you solve? The higher perceived value of that problem, the more you can charge for it, right? Because
Mm.
if you just kind of say, like, oh, well, I'll just come and help you organize your kitchen drawer, right? You're not really going to sell a premium package for that.
Mm.
However, if you were talking about it from a perspective of decluttering your space so that you can, feel more creative or expansive or whatever it might be, and you were talking about it from a more, maybe a feng shui perspective, and bringing more abundance in or bringing more opportunities in, now decluttering that drawer has become a much higher value proposition.
Wow, wow. And do you remember when we were doing my 6-week program? Do you remember what I was like?
I
And
do.
yeah, and
You were so timid. You were so humble. Because like that, I mean, like, to this day, I still tell you, I was like, Sam, you don't see your value. But you kept saying to me, like, no one's going to buy this.
and I was so convinced that nobody, but now it's my most common thing is my 6-week program. And sometimes because I'm doing it all the time, and sometimes all of us, like Orla and Richard and everyone in the chat, we're doing it so much ourselves, we don't realize how much value. That's really a huge
Yeah,
part of it, isn't it?
yeah, that's exactly it. And I think when you can really establish the value, and you kind of go, oh my God, this is amazing. And the way I like to look at it as well is, what's the return on investment? Like, I know that if somebody comes and works with me, that they will get at least 10 times the return on investment, because
Mm.
I've seen it. I've seen all my other clients do it. I've seen it for myself. I know that you're going to get a huge return on investment, not only in a monetary term, but also in terms of your confidence, your belief in yourself. You are going to be that person at the event who's going to be magnetic, who's going to be so, like, compelling to look at,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
And so I think that that's the really important piece of it. Is when I think about selling, and like people kind of get a little bit like, I don't want to be pushy, I don't want to be salesy or anything like that. If you are not in love with the value that you offer, you
Mm.
can't sell it. If
Mm.
you are not in love with the person that you're here to serve, you're not going to be able to sell it. Like, there's plenty of people out there who are just looking for the sale. And once they've got your money, that's it. They're not interested,
Yeah.
right? I'm not that person. Like, I'm invested. When you invest in me, I'm invested in you.
Mm.
And I want to make sure that I can do everything I can to get you to the point where, this is the result that you want to create. Not to say that I'm going to be a mammy, like, because I've got 3 kids of my own. I don't need any more children, right?
Yeah.
But we are adults. And for my job is to be a mirror for you, to show you your own brilliance, because you can't see it for yourself.
I love it. And I remember even when we created my 6-week pro, and now it's changed, tweaked, and as
Of
I've got.
course.
I
Yeah.
remember, I think first we were charging 900 and something, and now I charge 1,997. So even my confidence, even I could see the value. People were
Yeah.
telling me the value. And even folks, look at your recommendation. I just want to give a little tip of my own.
Yeah,
Look at
sure.
your recommendations on LinkedIn. Have a look at the little words that people are using in those recommendations. I mean, just pick out some of the words like integrity, blew me away, got me results, those kind of little words that they use. That is have a look at those words and put them on your little list of your evidence log. I love the evidence log. I love
Yeah.
that idea. I never even thought of that. So yeah, that's really, really interesting. So tell me about this retreat that's happening this weekend. There's one space left, folks, so we're going to see if
Yes.
anyone's interested in it.
Actually, I want to just tell you a little tip that's going to be really helpful, because if there's anybody out there that's thinking, I really want to charge more, but I'm scared to like make a big jump, do it in increments. If you're starting out like at 500, and you're like, oh, so actually I did this years ago with a client of mine, and actually she had a product business, and she was charging, so she was making handmade lingerie, just knickers and bras, and she was charging like 50 quid. And I was like, Mary, how long does it take you to create these things? And she was like, oh, about 8 hours, because it was handmade. And I was like, to
Yeah.
be fair, I could go to M&S and pick up, underwear for 50 quid. And I was like, so our goal was to create a premium product for her, right? And like that, like with your own program, it doesn't just happen. There's iterations, and there's like, you work on it. And ultimately what she created was bridal shapewear, right? So because she was an engineer by profession, and she was sewing since she was the age of 7,
Right.
right? And she started charging £250 around that. And I was like, it's definitely more, it's definitely worth more. Anyway, she went from 250 to 500 to 750. And I think that's kind of where she was. And I was like, so you've gone from 50 quid to 750. It was
Mm,
the same amount of time, but
mm,
she was now targeting someone who had a higher value problem that needed to be solved, because these brides were spending a fortune on their dresses. They need really good shapewear, right? So if you are afraid of like charging premium, go in increments, because that will help you to make it feel safe in your body again, and help you to feel it's a familiar thing. If you've got an offer that's 500, go to 750, book 5 clients at 750, then put it up to 1K. So you can do it that way, and you can do it in a little step by
happened with
step
me.
moment.
Yeah, I decided it was 1,450, and then I went to, so it's like it depends on. And then I think someone said to me before, if it feels like, "Ugh," I can't say this price see if it works, then that's okay, that price. Whereas
Yeah,
sometimes you can feel, oh, that's too low. I'm not discounting. I like
yeah,
discounting is a huge thing as well in small business, I think, as well. And
yeah, absolutely.
I love these tips. I think have helped everybody in the chat, because this retreat, though, if anyone did want to go along, it's on this weekend. So
Yes, yes, it is on this weekend. And the purpose of this retreat for me as the facilitator, as the retreat leader, is for these people to come in and really own their space, and to understand that you don't have to work long, hard hours in order to have a profitable, thriving business. Like for me, it's about having a fun life. It's about having a rich life. It's about having a fulfilled life. And I don't believe that business should be sucking up all your time and energy. So the way I look at it is, if you're really clear in your mind as to what it is that you do,
yeah,
what's the message, what problem are you solving, who are you solving it for, and then you have this really beautiful offer that is just like a delight to deliver. It's so easy for you. Like you literally rock up and you kind of go, right, let's do it. It feels so easy for you, right? And they get immense value, right?
yeah,
This is going to set the foundation for how you can actually really grow your business and grow it sustainably. Because I think everyone's always talking about like scaling it, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like for me, I think of it as scaling income and impact. But we want to know that every month you've got your bills covered, you've got everything that you want to, pay for, that you've got it covered. So it gives you that space to breathe, that space for creativity to flourish.
mm,
And so what we're going to be doing at the retreat is really establishing that foundation. But then let's talk about, well, how do you actually market and sell it? So like talking to them about what authority assets they have in their business that sells for them. How are they showing up in their business from an energetic perspective?
yeah.
So we're going to be really going deep into this.
Brilliant. I love it. I love it. So how much is it? If people wanted to go and book the last place, how much is
Yeah,
it?
so we've got one more spot left, and it's 297 euro for the 2 days, which is an absolute
Two
bargain.
days for 2 days. That's a
2
that
days.
is a bargain. That is a bargain. And it's in Leitrim. So
It's a need, yeah.
yeah, even if you're not in Leitrim and you're not interested, maybe you might know someone in Leitrim who would really benefit from that. Sounds brilliant value. Do they get to stay somewhere in there's a place to stay as well, or do they have to book that separately?
So that's separate. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay, brilliant, brilliant. Okay, well, look, thank you so much. Thank you, Richard. Richard says intrinsically motivated is always a bonus, when you're doing this stuff. So
100%.
so thank you, Yasmin. If anyone wants to get in touch with you, where did they go? I know I've put your email at the bottom, but where do they go if they want to contact you? What's your website?
It's yasminvorajee.com. And if you find it hard to spell my name, that's absolutely fine. If you type in tiny time big results, that will take you there as well. I do have a free guide available if you go to yasminvorajee.com/5 assets. And that talks you through the 5 digital assets that I recommend every solopreneur, coach, consultant should have in their business. That's going to help to really attract people in, build that trust, and nurture them and get them to become a paying client. So if you go to yasminvorajee.com/5 assets. And if you have any questions, or if you want to just have a chat and have a virtual coffee, then email me support@yasminvorajee.com and let's do it.
I just put it in there. See how quick I
Okay.
was?
Good woman.
Okay, so there you go. So thank you everybody for joining us. Yasmin, have a lovely lunch if you're on your lunch. And folks, if you want to watch the replay, this replay would be here as well. And thank you, Yasmin. And good luck with the retreat. Sounds brilliant.
Thank you so much, Sam. Thank you. And bye, everybody. Bye.
Dublin, to Dublin or somewhere over this end sometime.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you. Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you. Bye, everybody.